All right, in 3.2, we're going to look specifically at sampling. There's good sampling, and then there's bad sampling. Many statistical studies use information from a sample to make a conclusion about an entire population. Like we previously talked about, getting the data from a whole population is pretty unlikely, so you have to pick a sample. To ensure that these conclusions are accurate, we must be mindful of how the sample is selected. Choosing individuals from a population who are easy to reach results in what's called a convenient sample. It's convenient. They're easy to reach. But you have to be careful because convenient samples often produces underrepresented data. Okay? Easy to reach is the key. But what does that mean? That means you're underrepresenting some group. You catch one group, but there's a group of people that you don't capture, so you underrepresent that other group. A bad study design will consistently miss the truth about the population in the same direction if it's repeated many times. So we want the truth. We don't want to consistently miss it in the same way. So we call that bias. Bias is the design of a statistical study shows bias if it would consistently underestimate or consistently overestimate the value that you want to know when the study is repeated many times. It's that totally missing the mark thing. The bias is what we're talking about here. Ann Landers once asked her readers of a long-time advice column, if you had to do it over again, would you have children? She received nearly 10,000 responses. Almost 70% said no. Can it be true that 70% of parents regret having children? No, not at all. People who feel strongly about the issue, particularly people with strong negative feelings, are more likely to take the trouble to respond. So, this is an example of a voluntary response sample. It consists of people who choose to be a part of the sample by responding to a general invitation. Voluntary response samples are sometimes called self-selected samples because you choose to be a part of it or not. Nobody else is making the choice. You make the choice. So it's voluntary response, and clearly it's not a good way to sample because in this example it does not represent the population. In convenience sampling, the researcher chooses easy-to-reach people. Okay? The researcher chooses. That's key to catch. In voluntary response sampling, the people decide whether to join the sample. So make sure you know the difference. Both sampling methods suffer from bias due to personal choice. So neither one are good. The best way to avoid this problem is to let chance choose the sample. And that's what we call random sampling. It involves using a chance process to determine which members of a population are included in the sample. Let's try this. Example 1, you'll probably seen the mall interviewer, clipboard in hand, approach people passing by. Explain why even a large sample of mall shoppers would not provide a trustworthy estimate of current unemployment rate in the city where the mall is located. Is the proportion of unemployed people in the sample likely greater than or less than the proportion of all the people who are unemployed? First thing you would want to do on this problem is to identify what kind of sampling is that. Well, it's a convenient sample, right? Because they go to where the people are, where it's convenient. They get people that are convenient to them. And then we need to answer our question. So we're going to say it's a convenient sample. Okay, is the proportion of unemployed people in the sample greater than or less than the true proportion of people who are unemployed? So let's think about people who are in the mall during the day, during a normal weekday. Those people do not have jobs, right? They would be at their jobs if they did have a job. It's a convenience sample. So these surveyors are going to find out a lot of people are unemployed when that's really not the truth. Okay? So is it going to be greater than or less than? It's going to be greater than. Okay? So you would say that it is likely that the sample will overestimate the unemployment rate because people without jobs have more time to be at the mall than those who are employed. All right, so it's kind of a wordy answer, and it's a thinking question. There's no numbers here, you're just thinking. Number 2, many websites include customer reviews of products, restaurants, hotels, and so on. The manager of our hotel was upset to see that 26% of the reviewers on a travel website gave the hotel a 1-star rating, the lowest possible rating. Explain why the sampling method is biased. Is 26% likely greater than or less than the percentage of all the hotel customers who would give the hotel a 1-star? Explain this. So let's first identify what kind of sampling process is this? Well, the customer had to choose to be part of this, right? It's an online survey. They had to choose. So this is a voluntary response sample, and we know it has bias, but which way is it going to be? That 26%, who's going to respond to this? The people who are mad, right? That they had a bad experience. They're going to go out there, they're going to make their voice known. Most likely, that 26% is higher than all the customers who would give it a 1-star. Okay? So let's put this in words. It is likely those customers who volunteer to leave reviews feel strongly about the hotel due to a negative. Okay, as a result, the 26% is likely greater than the true percentage of customers who would give the hotel 1-star. Okay, so it's a lot of writing, but you just got to put into words what you're thinking. What is that 26%? It's likely greater than the true percentage because those people are more likely to have a strong opinion, and it's usually a negative opinion for them to take the effort to do this. Last one. You've probably seen them all interviewed. Back to the same one. Clipboard in hand, approaching people passing by. This is problem number 1 that we saw earlier. But what we want to do is explain how could we avoid bias that was described in this thing, being at the mall. What could we do to get a more accurate response to our survey? Well, we all said that being in the mall during the day isn't a good idea, right? So we need to get out of the mall. So let's think about this. Get out of the mall. And somehow an interviewer could obtain a list of all the people in the city and randomly select a sample from all those people to be surveyed. Okay, she's going to have to do a lot more work and a lot more time and energy, but that's going to make it a more random sample. So let's put this in words. First of all, get out of the mall. Instead of sampling in the mall, the interviewer obtained a list of all the people in the city and randomly select survey. All right, so you're going to have to think, and you're going to get some scenarios where you got to make them right. Like obviously it's going to be biased, but how could they make it unbiased? What could they do differently? So it's a thinking problem, thinking section.